Boom! What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount Mograph. As always, my name's Matt, and in today's video we have Summit 69, the liquid line morphs inside Adobe After Effects, and this is going to be a fun video. I'm going to show you what we're going to make here. It's going to look something like this. One second here. And so this technique is a mixture of tons of little tricks. I promise you can use most all of them for other stuff. And yeah, I put this together. It is actually based on a little dribble shot. Dribble is like this website where you can just like upload little projects or works in progress by this place called Creativa Studio. I'll put a link, I promise, credit where credit's due in the bottom of this video if you want to check them out. They have some other cool stuff too. So anyway, I saw this little concept and I really liked it, so I just thought I would try to put a little twist on it, and I ended up coming up with this. And I thought it might be a kind of cool technique and cool thing to go over, so that is what today's video is going to be. So that's probably the longest intro I've ever done, and I'm making it even longer. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and create a new composition here, 1920 by 1080. Should be fine. You can work with any size you'd like, but that's a pretty good just standard to go with. So let's go ahead and just set up some guides to start. What I'm going to do here is just grab the rectangle tool here and draw a couple little guides. You could use the ruler and create guides like that, but for this step, I think that this is probably the way to go. So I'm going to go ahead and just center this up in the composition, duplicate this layer, and scale it down. So this is going to be like our aligning for the circle, the play, and the pause icons. Since we're not going to design in Illustrator, we're going to design right in After Effects. I want to have some guides. So let's go ahead and turn the opacity down on these. Just a touch, maybe to 13%. I'm going to lock these. Actually, I'll make them shy first, and then I'll lock the layers and click the shy button. There we go. They're not even visible, but we're going to have that as a reference for what we're going to do next. So let's go ahead and grab the ellipse tool and create a circle. Just hold shift. We all know how that goes. So there we go. I got a circle. I'm going to go ahead and change the color to something a little bit more interesting, like this nice green, the summer green. And I'm going to turn the resolution of our composition down to 1/2 just because I want it to go nice and fast. I don't really want to waste too much time having to preview. And there we go. So let's go ahead and name this circle BG for our circle background. I'm going to duplicate it and then hide the original circle BG, and we're going to come back to that in a little bit. So it's just good to have that as a kind of step. Let's go ahead and name this as circle main, I guess. And now let's go ahead and create another object. So with this, we're going to create our play button using the polygon tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold shift and draw out a little object here and drag it so it's roughly the size we want here. So I'm going to go ahead, center up this anchor point, center it in my composition, hold command and click this little arrow here to toggle down all of our options and change our points to 3. So we now have this nice triangle. Let's go ahead and rotate it. You can press W on your keyboard to get the rotate tool. And let's go ahead and scale it down. But we're going to scale it down using the outer radius option here, so we don't change our stroke width. Because when you scale the object just like this, you're going to see our stroke is getting smaller, but and that's because we're scaling the object, and the stroke will change with that. So let's make sure to change with the outer radius, something like this. So that looks good. Let me call this the play button, and we'll go ahead and grab all of our objects and press U to minimize them just like this. And let's grab our circle main and our play button, and in our search option, let's go ahead and type the word line so we can see our line cap and line joins. And let's go and change these to round caps and round joins. And we'll see what that is going to do in a little bit. As you can see, we now have a nice round triangle, which looks a little bit better for that UI object. So as we can see, it doesn't look that lined up anymore in the center of our composition, and that's because I aligned the anchor point to that original shape. I think it was an octagon. So let me go ahead, center that up again, and one more time center it in our composition, and it's already looking a little bit more lined up. I'm glad I caught that. So let's go ahead and toggle down into our play button and actually once again turn up that upper radius. If you hold command, it's actually going to change incrementally in decimals, so you don't get like really large changes if you're trying to be accurate. So if you hold command or control on Windows, we can go ahead and scale that up a little bit better. So that is looking good as well. So let's go ahead and duplicate our play button and rotate it 180 degrees. You can hold shift and rotate it like this, and we're going to use this once again as a kind of guide. So let's go ahead and turn our opacity down just like that, and that looks nice. So let's unshine our two guide layers in the background like this, and we actually don't need them anymore, so we may as well delete them and save some space on our layers. And there we go. So we have some stuff going on. Let's bring up our ruler. We can do Command R on your keyboard, and we're going to drag out some guides. And we're going to do this with our play button 2 selected so we can see where those vertices are going to be. So what we're going to do is line up our lines that we're going to be drawing a little bit more. So I like to draw lines just like this, and we may as well hit up the other side as well. So select your other play button, and we're going to go ahead and just draw some more lines, and that looks pretty good. And I guess what the heck, let's put one in the middle for another point we'll be making. So this is all looking pretty good, but one of the things is, let's say we're going to start drawing with like a pen tool or something, and when you're drawing, sometimes you will actually grab, as you can see, it like the mouse over will grab the guides, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go back a little bit in time here, and we're actually going to lock our guides. So you can do Shift, Option, Command, or Control and semicolon, and that's going to lock your guides so you can't grab them. Or you can go up into your view and click Lock Guides right here. And so this just makes it so we can't grab them and we can't change them, which is going to be nice with what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and hide our play button and also that random shape thing I did for that example, and also the other play button, sorry, play button and play button 2. So let's go and focus on the circle main and think about what we're going to do here. So what I want to do is create, let's go ahead, bring up our play button and turn the opacity down on this one and also lock it, because we'll use this as a guide as well. So I'm going to go back to the circle main, and what we're going to do is a sneaky little technique to actually get this shape into a path that we can change, because right now we have the ellipsy path and you don't get the vertice points, but we want that for what we're going to do so we can save some time. So actually, if you right click this object, you can convert it to a Bezier path. So if we do this, we're going to see that we now have a path option, but more importantly, we now have vertices we can change. So this is really helpful for building stuff inside After Effects if you don't want to do it in Illustrator and bring it over. But now we have the problem where we actually want to draw more of a line, because we want to be able to animate the line using the trim path. But one of the things is these vertices, even if I deleted it, it's still going to be connected. So we have to fix that. So what we're going to do is grab your pen tool, G on your keyboard, and click as close as you can to the vertice next to it without selecting it. So it looks like mine's going to be right there, and we now have 2 points. So our object is still connected, but if we press V on our keyboard, and with our path option selected, you're going to get this little white arrow with a box, and we can drag over and select the 2 vertices with none of the other ones selected. And if you right click and go down to Mask and Shape Path, I can't even speak, we're going to go ahead and click the option called Closed, and it's now going to not be closed, which is exactly what we want. So let's once again use our selection tool and only grab the vertice over on this side, not our main one. And we're going to go and press G on our keyboard for our pen tool and click this little point right here and just continue drawing, and we're going to use our guides that we locked to actually draw on the same path as our original play button was. So it's a little janky up here, so let's go ahead and see how we can straighten this up. I might grab this little guy and just drag it over a little bit holding Shift, and it's a little bit more round, and I can deal with that. So there we go. That is a nice little workaround, and now we have this beautiful object that we could have created in Illustrator, but we might not have the same flexibility we're getting in After Effects. So that looks good. Let me go ahead and hide this layer. I don't need to lock it because it's hidden, but let's go back to our play button and focus on that. So I'm going to bring up our play button 2, which was our reference for this side, and actually click Command, or I don't even know what I'm saying. We're going to click Lock and do the same stuff we just did, where we click our Polystar path point, right click, Convert to Bezier Path, and we're now going to have a path to work with. And we're going to go over to the side right here, and once again use that little trick to unclose the path by holding Command, or not holding Command. I am trying so hard, guys, I promise. We're going to go ahead and bring up our pen tool and create another vertice as close as we can to the original point. Press V on your keyboard for your selection tool, grab both of those, right click, Mask and Shape Path, and unclick Closed, and there we go. It's not a closed path anymore. So what we're going to want to do is now press G on your keyboard and use that middle point to draw just kind of a middle section, and then we're going to line it up to the vertices over here. just as close as you can, just so we have two even sides essentially. And then I'm going to hide the play button 2, which was our guide, and you're going to see that our shape is looking something like that. So you can go on in there and see what you can do to maybe round out these corners a little bit. That already looks a little bit better. And then I'll straighten that up here. There we go. And I can work with that. That looks pretty good. So that is our other shape. So let's go ahead and get everything back to normal. I'm going to bring in my circle main and turn the opacity back up on our play button, and go ahead and delete our play button 2. So there we go. We're in the right spot, and let's go ahead and unlock our guides and also remove them. So you can do Shift Option Command semicolon or Control on Windows and go ahead and unlock our guides so we can change them. And to get rid of guides, you can actually just drag them up into the ruler, which is pretty cool. But if you don't want to do that, you can also do Command R to hide your ruler and then hide the guides doing Control or Command semicolon. So there we go. We are back in business, and it's looking pretty interesting. This is like the worst logo for a company. It's I can't even come up with something on the spot for what this could be. Any ideas, leave them in the comments. And let's go ahead and create some animation now that we've got everything set up. So let's go and select our path here, path 1, and go add, and we're going to go down and add a trim path. And I'm going to hold Command, toggle everything down, and just set a keyframe on all 3 of these right now, so we can press U and quickly bring up those properties. So I'm going to, once again, actually I think you can just copy this. I think we'll copy these keyframes and just grab our circle main and paste them, and let's see if that worked. So I'm going to toggle down here, and it looked like it actually created its own group. So just grab this and pull it back up. You can move these if you didn't know. It's pretty cool. I'm going to put this right in our path 1. That was probably a stupid thing to do in this video, but there we go. So now it's on the right path, and there we go. We're all set. So now when I press U, I have 2 trim paths, and when I animate them, it's going to draw on or off. So the first thing we're going to want to do is set up our starting point. So I'm going to hide our play button, and as you can see, the shape doesn't look right. We want it to animate over time and end up with that left side of the pause button. So let's just start tweaking some of these settings and see what we have to do to get that look. So I'm going to slide my end to 53%, and then the offset, I'm just going to start animating backwards. So we're at 149 degrees, and then I'll turn up my end a little bit more and just tweak it until we have that full shape without the pause button. We don't want any piece of it, so right about there, I'm holding Command to change in decimals. We are about at the right starting point. And also with the offset, we want to start right up at the top. So tweak it as much as you have to get that look. And I'm going to just hold Command here and make sure I'm getting as close as I can before we get that little pop-up down here. So that looks pretty good. So that's a great starting point for our original circle. And let's do the same for our play button. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the circle. And what we want to do is animate from this side around our play button and swooping over to this side. So let's go ahead and just turn down our end and see what's starting to happen. And we'll turn our offset up, and there we go. That is actually pretty dang good. So I'm going to leave it just like that. We don't need to spend too much time right now. And maybe hold Command and really get as close as you can to lining up. And that's why you want to get those vertice points that we created as close as you can. You could go ahead back into your path and move them even closer if you like, but for the purpose of time, we're going to go ahead and skip that step. So Shift forward bracket will actually center up your whole composition right here, which is nice. And that's a nice hotkey or shortcut, whatever you want to call it, that I use quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get our animation together. So I'm going to slide these keyframes forward a second just so we have a nice like resting section, and make both of them visible. Go forward in time to about 2 seconds here, and let's go ahead and hit that second section. So that's going to be 2 pause buttons. So what we're going to do is first go forward with our offset and see when our animation starts to go to our second spot. In this case, we're once again going to hide our play button and just see that it hits here, and that looks good. So I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm actually going to change the starting position. I'm going to start trimming that and try to get a small little section that we're then going to change with the offset to bring it over to our side of the pause button. So there we go. That actually looks fine. Let's see how this looks when it plays. And there we go. So we have this little line morph, and we're going to do the same thing now with the play button, trying to get it to line up to the same spot as our button over here. So we could go ahead and pop up our ruler again and actually drag out some guides. But actually, let's get rid of our old ones, or just move them if they're not locked anymore. So I'm going to move that to the top and the bottom of the pause, and I'll drag these guys out. Whoops, and try not to grab those. Let's see here. I'm really bad with clicking with the mouse today. And then we're going to go ahead and lock our guides so we can't click them. So Shift, Option, Command, semicolon, or Control on Windows. You guys are probably so sick of hearing that at this point, but let's go ahead and animate over to our other corner. So that's going to be looking like changing our offset backwards, and I'm going to turn up our starting position and bring it over to this side and try to hit the top of the line and the bottom. So if I have to maybe trim the start a little bit more, we are almost there, real close. Do that a little bit more, and let's see. Yeah, this can get frustrating, but holding command makes it a lot easier. So there we go. Looks like for this one, I also trimmed the end a little bit. Whatever you need to do to get it to work. And there we go. We have our little starting animation. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of easing to this, just like that. And now we have a little bit of speed. So one thing I don't like is right in the middle here, they actually intersect. So what we're going to do with our circle main is just hold Option and drag this out a little bit on our timeline. Maybe that was a bit too much, but now it's going to take a little bit longer to get there, and that looks good. But one of the things with motion graphics that I try to keep in mind when I'm animating is to keep things moving. So we have this section right here where this has already rested and this has not. So what we're going to do is actually do a little bit more animation with our play button. So press P on your keyboard for your position property, right click and separate the dimensions, and we're only going to want to add a keyframe to our Y position. So go ahead and set a keyframe and press U to see your active keyframes here, or the ones you've changed, and then we're going to go forward again and set the keyframe one more time. So then in the middle here, let's go ahead and just change the position a little bit. I'm going to just hold command and drag it up so it actually goes above the line for a second, and let's see what we have going on. So there we go. We have a nice little animation where it pops up and comes back and rests, and that looks nice. So what I'm going to do is actually use just the blend tool over in the motion little script here, and now that's going to smooth it out so I don't really have to even mess with keyframes. So there we go. We have a really nice little line morph between two objects, and let's go ahead and get that circle background, the original, back. And as you can see, that was kind of a nice thing to have as a step, because now we have a background for this animation. So what I'm going to do with this circle background is actually change the color here, or actually we can probably just knock down the opacity, and that is close enough. So we can still see that it's a button between those two transitions. So let's play this, and there it is. So that looks pretty nice. I actually feel like that it's a little bit off at the top, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Maybe I probably actually do have to tweak that. That's going to bother me. So let's go ahead and go into our circle main, hold command, toggle down everything, right click, convert to Bezier path, hold command, grab our path, and I'm just going to kind of cheat and grab this. So that's when it can be helpful. And look, it's a perfect circle again. So with that step, we can probably take this up another notch. So we have this nice animation, but at the end of the day, it's not that interesting. It's pretty basic. So what we're going to do is grab those keyframes here and actually paste them again. So I'm going to use the clone tool, grab them, right click, go down to keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes, and then I will actually drag these over here, and this one has to go back over here. So now this is going to reverse our animation. So we have a little animation on, and let's say someone clicks it, and it's going to go back to the original, which is a nice transition. So let's make this even more interesting. I'm going to grab the play button and the circle main and the circle background, and I'm going to go up in, grab this tool called the null tool, and I'm going to press R for rotation. So as this is animating in, I want it to also spin. So let's go to 2 seconds when everything is almost locked into place, or locked into place, whatever you want. And let's see which way it goes. So we are going to be rotating counterclockwise, it looks like, as this animates in. So let's go to -180. And let's see, yeah, if I had kept those circles a little bit better, we wouldn't get that weird jelly effect, but here we go. So now it's going to spin as it comes in, which should make things a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and paste it down on the timeline, grab those keys, right click, keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes, and then add a little bit of easing. And there we go. We have our nice little line morph. So we could stop the video there, and I hope you guys learned something from that. I thought it was kind of fun, as much as I'm all over the place today. But we can also go ahead and take it to the next level, which would be like the liquid. So let's go and see what techniques would do to get this to work. So what I'm going to do is grab the null control circle background and do Command C to copy it. I'm going to grab all the layers and do Shift Command C to make a pre-composed layer, and I'm going to call it line art or something, and then press V to paste those backgrounds in place, just so we still have the same animation, because the next step we actually don't want the background in. So I'm going to click into line art and actually hide our background, and now we're still going to have it in our original. So now when it plays, our animation looks pretty cool. And well, what we're going to do with this is actually use another tool called Warp to kind of mush everything together without saving a lot of time while doing it. So I'm going to click Warp, and just like that, it's going to be a little bit slower to process, but our lines are going to look a little bit more liquidy, and they're going to kind of stretch and do all kinds of cool stuff. So let me just let it preview for a second, and then we'll go and take it up another notch even. So we already have a nice little line morph, and just with the default settings on that warp tool, it's a pretty good starting spot, but it might look a little bit thin and not quite what I want. So if we actually click back into our line art here and grab our play button and circle main, we're going to go ahead and just turn up our stroke a little bit. So it's going to get swashed when we put on that warp. So if I put it to like 91 and come back here, it's not going to look like the stroke is at 91. So that's kind of nice, but that means it's going to have more interaction between the other lines and be a little bit more mushy, for lack of better words. So here we are. We're at a pretty good spot with this animation. And in order to make it just a little bit more interesting still, we're going to go ahead and just add some different color lines in the background of this and keep things looking kind of cool. So let's go ahead and jump into our line art here, and once again grab all the layers and do Shift Command C to pre-compose. I'm just going to call it line art 1, I guess. I'm going to duplicate this layer and go and grab the fantastic fill effect and drop it onto our layer, and we have nice red color. Let's maybe not use that. I'm going to hide that and just grab the green and change, let's call it the hue. I'll just make it a little bit blue and turn the fill back on. And let's go ahead. I'm just trying to like think on the fly here. Sorry, a little bit slow today. And I haven't done this in a while. Let's go ahead and do option and page down. And we're going to go ahead and just move this a little bit forward on our timeline. And let's see how that looks. So once it rests, you're going to want to do Shift Command D and then do option page up, because you're going to want to move it back as much as you moved it forward, so it actually starts before your other one then. So that was probably a bit much. So let's see. We now have two colors and they kind of overlap. I'm actually going to put the blue beneath our original green. I think the green looked a little bit better. And there we go, we have two. So you could duplicate this as many times as you want to get different colors. But now when we go back to our main one that's being warped, we're going to go see that those colors get interacted with as well. So we're going to have an even cooler looking animation. So here we go. And what we might want to do is actually turn down our warp time, but we'll take a look at this and just see. I'll do a quick preview. So yeah, that's a little bit long, but it actually looks kind of cool. So I'm going to leave it. So there we go. This was a tutorial or a summit that has been some time since I've posted. So it was probably all over the place. But I really think that this was a fun technique, and I hope you guys had fun. It would mean a lot if you leave a comment or like the video, and I'll definitely do my best to keep uploading videos. I'm so sorry about the last month and a half. I got a puppy and have been all over the place. But anyway, this was Matt from Mograph. Thanks so much for checking out the channel. You guys rock. Internet high five. Peace out.